Let us pray. Almighty God, we who have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and will promote the interests of the people. Almagtige God, ons bid dat u gedurende ons vergaderings ons die nodige wysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou en dat u ons sal help om ons tekortkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikalele leswi letu nabantu balo, umusili ukulungu kwipondo letu. Kosi sikalela i Afrika, tina bantwana bayo, kokele in kokeli zayo, iniki ukolo i Afrika. All this we beg, in your holy name, amen. You may be seated. Good morning, honourable members. Good morning to our guests in the gallery. Good morning to the administration. Feel welcome. Just a few words around the rules of the gallery. We appreciate your being here. However, you cannot participate in the proceedings of the House, which means you're not allowed to clap, do any interjections, or intervene in the discussion in any way. And also, please kindly ensure that your cell phones are now placed on silent. Thank you. I'd like to call the House to order. The Secretary will read the first order of the day.
Debate on Vote 7, Social Development, Western Cape Appropriation Bill.
I now see the Honourable Minister Fritz.
Honourable Speaker and Deputy Speaker, Honourable Premier in the absence at the moment, and Cabinet colleagues, and real amazing Cabinet colleagues. I've worked with them for 9 years. Yes, they're amazing, absolutely amazing. Honourable, amazing members of the DA caucus sitting behind me with Mark Wiley as the whip, everything, and then honourable members from the ANC, very honourable members. Some people really became good friends. Mayors present, MICO members, and I specifically see Dr. Zahid Badruddin and Councillor Papan. Also a dear friend of mine sitting in the gallery, Mr. Jabbar from DEFSA. A very warm welcome to you. To my own staff, but I have a very, very special welcome to my other family this morning. All our youth sitting within the gallery. It's become a very special family to me, and it's so great to have you here to support me this morning. So a very warm welcome to you guys. Honourable Madam Speaker, I rise to present the Western Cape Department of Social Development's DSD 2019-2020 budget. Madam Speaker, with a total budget of 2,464,379,000 rand, this department will continue to ensure service delivery excellence. This is safeguarded as this DA-led government is guided by the rule of law, by evidence-based programs, by public value and accountability. And I want to emphasize that. We are further directed by core legislation, policy mandates, and the provincial strategic goals of this province. In this DA-led province, we are building a capable state, Madam Speaker, and strengthening the capacity of our departments. Unlike the ANC, we do not destroy state institutions through cronyism and corruption. We do not allow for our officials to go unpaid indefinitely, such as those that were in the West Rand District Municipality. And that's the first sign of a failed state, when officials go unpaid. And that's exactly what happened with ANC government where they rule. The general election on 8th of May places the Western Cape and South Africa at a critical juncture with only two options. Either we vote for the DA who provides service delivery actions, or we vote for the ANC who will ensure that we become yet another failed state unable to deliver any other services. I don't even want to talk this morning. I don't even want to talk about the ACDP or the AFF, who are non-existent in the House, and I hope the voters see this to see what their vote means for them. It's a waste of time. Madam, your voters will vote for good. Don't worry.
Order,
don't worry.
Please.
Madam Speaker, allow me to explain how, unlike the ANC, the DA ensures.
Say, honourable members, Minister Fritz, kindly take your seat, please. Minister Fritz, kindly take your seat, please.
Yes, he is a victim.
Honourable members, too much noise from both sides of the House. I can understand your enthusiasm. It is the second last day of this term. We need to get through a pretty long day. Let's not use up all the energy in this first session. If you could compose yourselves, you may proceed, Minister.
Madam Speaker, allow me to explain how, unlike the ANC, the DA ensure service delivery excellence. Since 2009, remember we came in the ANC, they were voted out in 2008. Remember that election? And then we came into governance. This department and the government has increased its provincial footprint by 176%. You had 2 offices for the poor to service the poor. We increased our footprint by 176%. We have grown from 1 head office and 16 districts, 1 head office in 16 districts, to, Madam Speaker, in 2009, to a head office overseeing 6 regional offices with 45 local offices and a number of point services for people so that poor can access services. That's what ANC governments mean, and means failure. This has brought services closer to communities, assisting those in need and assisting those most in need. Yes, because of the stress.
Order, please. Member Davis, running commentary now.
Conversely, the ANC has submitted its list of political candidates whose credentials in theft, thuggery, brown envelopes, rasool, and factionalism were held through the Gupta crisis and Bosasa crisis. What you are personified by theft. That's what the ANC is. Yes.
Order, please.
Why would we be afraid of rasool?
Minister Fritz, please kindly engage the chair. Do not debate it.
Speaker, why would we be afraid of rasool? With his reputation in tatters, who would be afraid of the poor? Yes, you're supposed to defend.
Order, please.
Children and families, they become the social services, Honourable Beavolker. A key aspect of service delivery.
Sorry, there is a member on the floor. Kindly take your seat, please. Honourable Makaleni.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, can I request that you ask Honourable Fritz to come down? Once he comes down, the House will come down, and you can hear him properly. Thank you.
I think your point is sustained, Minister Fritz. It is your presentation. You can do as you wish.
Thank you, Madam.
However, I am going to caution you up front and ask you to manage your finger, please. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Order. Member
a key
David.
aspect of service delivery for us is protecting children and supporting the family institutions. And this morning, Madam Speaker, another child was murdered in Elam, in our most peaceful community, in the most peaceful community. If you want the government to be everywhere, in everyone's kitchen, in everyone's house, we must really look at that. Everyone must take responsibility for that child that's murdered. Stop pointing to the government. That's why children are continuing to be murdered. Let us, everyone, take responsibility and stop the murder of our children. That is why the department has allocated 31% of its budget to the program Children and Families. Early childhood development centers, in line with the provincial strategic goal, to aim of its improving educational outcomes, 1.1 billion has been committed over the 2019 MTF to improve early childhood development, and I'm saying over the MTF, Madam Honourable Member, at 65 sites where school readiness is poor. This will enable 7,000 to 8,000 more children to attend ECDs. It's a very important point because that first phase of a child's life needs the development. Yet again, this department is ensuring service delivery excellence by establishing a centralized ECD unit in the next financial year. I'm coming to that point. Rapidly growing numbers of ECDs and onerous registration requirements challenge the NGO sector and this department. It really challenges us also. Municipal zoning and building plan, and I'm happy that MICO members here to listen to this part, that the municipal zoning and business and building plan requirements in the Children's Act prevent many ECDs in informal areas from registration. For this reason, Honourable Davids, and Madam Speaker, through you, I have written to the National Minister, Susan Sabango, to ask her to ease these regulatory requirements, discriminating against the most vulnerable in our communities. Meanwhile, my department will deploy additional resources because this is how an enduring state is managed. Child care and protection, in the 2019-2020 financial year, 230.1 million has been allocated to promote the well-being of children and families through the Child Care and Protection sub-program. This example of how the DA delivers is contrasted with the ANC's failure to provide services to disabled children residing at a youth care facility in KwaZulu-Natal, KwaZulu-Natal. Despite receiving 1.4 million a year funds, and this is how the ANC governs. I just want to make the point, Madam Speaker, the ANC governs like this. They get 1.4 million. All the money disappeared, the children were lying hungry in there, and other departments had to come and sort it out. And we really want to say, people who are still wasting their vote on the ANC, I don't know what happened with Ramaphosa and this one.
I'm sorry, Minister
Fritz.
Minister Fritz, kindly take your seat, please. Honourable Davids, in terms of the rules, interjections are allowed. But when your interjections become a running commentary, no, okay. Honourable Davids, I have been ticking here, and they were certainly not two. So I think there were 2 breaks between the interjections. Okay, but so, okay, so, and I also heard you compliment the ministers and say something good, so can we just manage ourselves, please? You may proceed, Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In Afrikaans, die waarheid maar baie seer. Madam Speaker, when we come to adoptions, Madam Speaker, the ANC-led national government favorite tool in state collapse is centralization. They centralize everything. And they centralize key institutions. They have done this before with our Chapter 9 institutions, and they plan to do it again with our land, National Reserve Bank, and adoption. Even the adoption sector, they want to centralize. Our child protection services are threatened by the Children's Amendment Bill. Don't let me say something, what? Our Children's Amendment Bill to the Children's Act proposed by the national government. The bill will make it illegal, Madam Speaker, for accredited child protection organizations, social workers, lawyers, psychologists, and medical professionals to charge for the expertise. Only the state overburdened social workers will be able to facilitate adoptions. Consequently, the figure of 3.7 million vulnerable and orphan children in our country will increase, and yet another important service in our country will collapse. We must really get this right now. We are taking it up. We are fighting this centralization, and we hope to win this. Because our children need homes. They don't need to be in institutions and in foster care. They can come into adoptions, but this ANC government makes everything impossible. They mess everything up. And then Davids is sitting there making a noise. What? We're fighting it, man.
All right, sorry, Minister Fritz.
You know the
Minister Fritz,
specialist.
kindly take your seat.
You the specialist.
Honourable Member Davids, you have had 9 interjections in the space of less than 3 minutes. Now, if that is not a running commentary, then I have to say you need to manage yourself, otherwise you are going to run the risk of me imposing a rule that might see you leave the chamber for the rest of the day. Thank you.
As early as this.
You may proceed, Minister Fritz.
And I want to now speak about disability, and I want to contrast the reason why I'm making it, Madam Speaker. I want voters to see when in 2009, when we came in here, what was the situation and how it improved. You know, this useless ANC government who used to rule here before just messed everything up, and so that people can see what they must do. This caring DA government has allocated 186.3 million in this 2019-2020 financial year to continue empowering persons living with disabilities, including the deaf sector, which receives 9.1 million last year. Madam Speaker, we have had unparalleled success in increasing our service to persons with disabilities. In 2009, just 120, a kale 120 mensen, 220 people with disabilities receive specialized services. Today, 88,000 people receive specialized services. Unlike the ANC, this DA-led government understands that the true transformation means, it means it's changing policy, it means include everyone. Include everyone. Transformation means inclusion, not just color, it means the people living with disabilities. And that's what they must get into their thick skulls. It is not a tool to benefit a few and destroy the state. Madam Speaker, over the next 5 years, we plan to strengthen our services by making gainful employment opportunities available to persons with disabilities through strong public-private partnerships, because this is what an enduring state does. We don't try and do everything on our own, we do it through partnerships. Restorative services. In line with the PSG 3 aim of tackling social ills, the Department's restorative services provide substance abuse prevention and rehabilitation and victim empowerment. Substance abuse prevention and rehabilitation. Substance abuse is a significant issue in our province, caused by the complex interplay of environmental and genetic factors. My department has allocated 66.7 million for the 2019-2020 financial year to address and prevent substance abuse, benefiting 12,000 clients. And Madam Speaker, I want to say, this never even becomes enough. So we must really fight the causes of it. In the next 5 years, we look forward to working with our NGO partners to implement more preventative programs for youth in high-risk communities. Remember, Marius Fransman also said that, and he's even out of parliament. He's not even here, he's out of parliament. So be careful. Be careful what you say. Ek is a prophet. Victim empowerment. You remind me of him. Victim empowerment programs. My department remains committed to uplifting victims of abuse. The Western Cape DSD currently funds 16 shelters that provide safe accommodation, therapeutic services and skills development for up to 3 months, and 4 emergency shelters that provide safe accommodation for up to 7 days for women who's absolutely in need of care. In the next 5 years, we look forward to working closely with the Department of Human Settlements and the City of Cape Town to ensure both victims of abuse leaving our shelters and young people leaving child protection facilities have safe alternative accommodation and viable work opportunities. Today, we have a lady in the gallery, I'm not sure whether she's still here, but I saw her this morning, who, after serving a particular period within a child and youth care center and turned 18, get put out and put on the road. We are so happy that we have an amazing network of young people who could capture her and put her in safe. But it must be, we must take responsibility for that. Next year, we further look forward to working closely with the new provincial police force. We're going to have our own police force to facilitate the seamless delivery of social services to those who need it most. Because you have failed our people. Initiative of young people. Madam Speaker, the development of young people is paramount in this department. This is why my department spearheaded the Provincial Youth Development Strategy, which helps youth, particularly those not in education, employment, or training, improve their outcomes and really become something. Hence, youth development will receive 24.1 million for 2019-2020 financial year to implement the PYDS. Youth cafes, guided by the PYDS, this department has launched 11 youth cafes in the past 5 years across the province, which is testament to our service delivery excellence. I'm pleased that 1.8 million has been set aside for the establishment of 3 new youth cafes in Metro North, Metro East, and the Overberg Cape Wineland region. And so we're really looking forward to that. Cape Youth at Work. Madam Speaker, addressing youth unemployment has been a strategic priority for this administration. Over the past year, the Cape Youth at Work program has upskilled 100 interns from Mitchells Plain, Manenberg, Khayelitsha, and Philippi East. I'm pleased that over 4 million has been allocated for this financial year for this program in 2019-2020. Unlike the ANC, the private sector is not our enemy. In fact, we work closely together to ensure that young people are employed. This is why the DA-led government in the Western Cape and the youth unemployment rate is at 17%, lower than the national average. Evidently, the DA is the only party that can save South Africa from being a young and yet another failed. The only party. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, I have highlighted South Africa and the Western Cape at a critical juncture. Either we vote for the DA who provides service delivery excellence, or we vote for the ANC and we will ensure that we become yet another failed state. Regardless, we are working hard to sustain and expand our services. Granted, this is difficult when the ANC misled national government cannot even keep the lights on. We're all in darkness because our country is Eskom reghouni. Let me take this opportunity. Allow me now, Madam Speaker, to take the opportunity to thank the Premier in absence for outstanding leadership over the past 2 administrations. The only Premier in South Africa that served 10 years, by the way, the only one. Hulle kan nie eens hulle premiers in poste hou nie. If you're not murdered, you are kicked out. I would also like to thank my cabinet colleagues, and I really want to use the opportunity to thank my cabinet colleagues sincerely. We were probably the most amazing group that I worked with. Absolute great human beings, always remain like that. Be humble and humility. Moenie laat private security vir jou na jou kop toe gaan nie. Well, if I'm you, you may just not be in Parliament again, so don't say anything. I want to also use the opportunity to thank my head of ministry, Mr. David Abrams, and my ministerial staff. And I want to specifically say a very big thank you to Alex for the 9 years that you've been with me. Thanks for you and for your future. Where are you going? You're going quite far. Thank you. I would also like to thank my head of department, Dr. Robert McDonald, and every single member of my senior staff. Amazing guys. We work well together. Thank you guys. Okay. And then I want to thank all the NGO and our NGO partners that I work with. I want to thank all staff everywhere, also parliamentary staff. Thank you for everything. And Madam Speaker, most importantly, I would like to also thank my wife, Diane, and my son, Charlton. Fritz, thank you for your constant support and inspiration. Thank you. Madam Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to table Budget Vote 7 on social development. Thank you, and keep quiet. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Magaka, you haven't settled in, you haven't greeted, you haven't even said good morning to your colleagues, and you're already performing. You've just arrived. And yesterday you were the epitome of calmness. You told me you are calm. Thank you, Honourable Magaka. Let's be calm. Thank you. May we now... May we now continue with the debate on vote 7? I now see the Honourable Member Porter. Order, please.
Thank you, Speaker. I think the Minister said it all, Speaker. Honourable members of this House, all our guests in the gallery, welcome. Firstly, Madam Speaker, I want to start today's speech by paying special tribute to Delphina Europa, a 6-year-old girl whose body was found yesterday in Elim near Bredasdorp. I would also like to express my deepest condolences, and I would ask the House to join me in doing that to young Delphina's family during this difficult time. I want to thank the SAPs and community members who together conducted the search throughout the night and early hours of the morning until the body was found. It is important that the perpetrators of such heinous crimes get the justice that they deserve. Speaker, yet again, this death is one child again too many. I would also like to call on the assistance of Minister Fritz for his department to provide the necessary social services for Delphina's family during these exceptionally difficult times. And I call again on caregivers, parents, community, take heed, practice, your child is my child. We have to look out for all our children within our communities. The very nature and essence of social development is about putting people at the center of development and not putting people at the center of exploitation and destruction, which we are remarkably knowledgeable about because we hear this all the time happening. It is welcoming that the 2.46 billion rand will be appropriated over the 2019-2020 MTF to ensure the provision of a comprehensive network of social development services that enables and empowers the poor, the vulnerable, and those in need of various special services. Speaker, the Western Cape serves as a great example regarding what it truly means to adopt a people-centered approach to social development practices. Under the trusted leadership of Minister Fritz and his capable department, we have been fortunate to bear witness to the adoption of development policies and programs that benefits people's day-to-day lives. Our department is well aware that poverty is more than just having a low income. It is also about vulnerability, exclusion, powerlessness, and exposure to violence. It is in this light that the Provincial Department continues to promote social inclusion by building cohesive and resilient societies and making its public institutions accessible and accountable to the ordinary resident in our province. A key function of the DA-led Western Cape Government, and in particular the Western Cape Department of Social Development, is ensuring the delivery of social welfare service to the poor and vulnerable in partnership with key stakeholders and civil society organizations. A key issue in any developing or emerging economy, especially in a nation with such a unique history like ours, requires developing community development services that empowers the individuals living in our urban and rural communities. I must pay tribute to the hard-working social workers across our province, working tirelessly and selflessly to improve the lives of those vulnerable individuals in our society. These are our unsung heroes, who without their help, maintaining community stability would practically be an impossible feat. Slow economic growth being experienced nationwide has not prevented the department from fulfilling its mandate. Speaker, it is welcoming that under Programme 2, just over 1 billion rand in 2019-20 is due to expansion of social welfare services, the provision of increases to NPOs in disabilities and older persons programs, the funding for the provision of extra bed space at Sivuhile, and the introduction of an allocation for sanitary dignity framework. Speaker, the establishment of a sanitary dignity framework at a provincial level is a first in South Africa. The lack of a policy or framework pertaining to the provision of sanitary products and adequate menstrual hygiene management for females may have implications relating to their education, health, empowerment, employment, and social activity. So well done to this department. Furthermore, there are growing concerns that the work of non-governmental organizations and several other organizations will not be able to provide the resources necessary for the girl child to not only manage their menses appropriately, but also the effect it has on our female learners to acquire an equitable education over a long term. Thus, Speaker, where the ANC has failed to address this pertinent issue, I have no doubt that our caring provincial government will deliver on this program. The 2011 census highlights that our province is home to slightly over 2 million youth between the ages of 15 and 34 years. Moreover, it has been calculated that roughly 13% of these youth, and that is approximately just over 277,000, can be classified as not in employment, education, or training. In addition, more than 60% of the unemployed youth have less than a matric standard of education. In light of many of these youth lacking adequate role models, in far too many cases, we do find these young opting for a life of involvement in criminal activity. We are well aware that the effects of crime on society tends to negatively impact those members who are already the most vulnerable. The increase of crime disrupts the population's sense of social cohesion and is well known for breaking down crucial social associations, affecting households' behavior negatively. Even the fear of crime is as damaging as the act of crime itself. In order to tackle crime holistically, Speaker, the department is making use of preventative measures for those individuals who are at the highest risk. The establishment of youth cafes, which serve more than 10,000 young people every month, the network of funded substance abuse treatment services from a mere 7 in 2009 to 53 working at 81 sites across the province are just a few, among many other measures which are being implemented to support our youth from running wild on the streets and thus being exploited and manipulated into joining gangs. Speaker, I must commend the Minister and his department for their commitment to establishing the relevant probation and diversion services to children, youth, and adults in conflict with the law in high-risk communities. I am also aware and welcome that the department has dedicated as much as 753 million rand, that is just over 30% of its budget, to help families, in particular in servicing children and women from our poorest and most needy communities across our province. Furthermore, funding has been dedicated to much-needed services, which includes victim support services, including the provision of shelters for victims of crime and violence, and these are predominantly for women and children, special accommodation for victims of human trafficking, and prevention and early intervention services for communities and families and individuals. Speaker, in promoting an inclusive society where all individuals feel a true sense of belonging, the department works night and day to ensure that those with disabilities are also accounted for. Since the DA took over this government, and it was said by the Minister, in 2009, 88,000 individuals now have access to specialized disability services, compared to the mere 120 people under the previous ANC administration. It is ultimately through the work of our Provincial Department of Social Development we have experienced massive progress towards building an inclusive society. Social cohesion continues to be at the epicenter of established budgets, promoting peaceful and safer environments within neighborhoods and communities. Speaker, over the past decade of DA governance, social accountability exists to the extent that citizens' voices are expressed and heard by the respective government authorities. I must commend the Minister on his achievements up unto this point. Minister, in the face of an increasingly constrained budget environment, while also facing escalating levels of poverty and unemployment. To all my colleagues serving on the standing committee, thank you. A special thanks to Namoinde Jamka and Mary Ann Burgess, but also to all the coordinators in the committee section. Your support is greatly appreciated. Speaker, I am confident that the officials in the Department of Social Development are fit for purpose. There is no reason to believe that these officials are not only performing their constitutional obligations with the necessary pride, skills, expertise, and commitment, but that this Parliament can be really proud that our province has officials of this caliber. A special accolade, Speaker, to all our social workers and child and youth care workers who is at the forefront and frontline to restore hope within our communities in our province. Without further notice then, Speaker, and with all this said, the DA in the Western Cape support this budget. I thank you.
Thank you, Member Botha. I now see the Honourable Member Makaleni.
Thank you, Speaker. Honourable members, this year marks 25 years since the end of apartheid. We must use this time to reflect on the progress we've made, the challenges we have encountered, and mistakes we have made. The Minister in his foreword states that the primary focus for his department is to maintain good governance practices that are geared towards effective service delivery. I call on him to explain to the House how did the department become one of the 3 highest contributors to the increased irregular expenditure in this province, which increased by 91%. He must also explain about the measure put in place to avoid reoccurrences of this increased irregular expenditure. He further mentioned that the department have introduced a number of innovations, including the Eye on the Child program. This innovative idea looked very familiar to me. Then I realized there is nothing innovative about this program. This is the Child Welfare Program, started in 1998, rolled out in areas like Lotus River, Khayelitsha, Clotisville, Itas Valley, and so forth. And that was presented to the Standing Committee. The Eye of a Child is Solabantwana. I'm sure you remember, Member Potter. Is a program which has a serious component that I wish the department, as they copy this program, will not leave the fact that it engages with community, empower them to partner in prevention of abuse and neglect of children. Honourable members, kunzima futhi kubuhlungu ukukhulisa abantwana in this province. Western Cape has the highest number of child murderers. As mother, it pains us when we leave our children going to work, as we don't know if our children will still be alive if not raped on our return. 279 children have been reported to have been murdered in this province in recent years. I asked myself, what kind of a society that we live in? Minister Winde yesterday responded that it is the kind that needs soldiers. This is what happens when we have a province that is governed by people who are aloof, that are not in touch with what is happening in the communities. We have social problems here. We need a response and innovative government that understand that we live in poverty. People of this province are frustrated. Over 1.32 million people are unemployed. They turn to drugs and alcohol for comfort, which leads to violence, crime, and high incidence of child maltreatment. Out of the 2.4 billion that is allocated to this department, they saw it necessary for the child care and protection to be only allocated 230 million. In this blue book, the department stated the child protection is the most important priority, yet the department reduced the budget for sub-program 3.3 to see the compare To see this, compare the main appropriation and the revised estimate on page 333 and 37, sorry. Sub-program 3 deals with children and families. We see this year an expansion of ECB in the program. Its primary goal is to provide daily practice and therapeutic assistance to children and families. This is a national program that claims success in addressing poverty and reducing inequality. Partnering with over 400 NGOs, training 10,000 CYCWs. It creates safe space for children where they can play, do homework, receive a meal, and access counseling and support services. We have seen this program reaching to disabled children. We have seen it works in James House in Hout Bay. We are hoping it will expand further to Kailicha and Delft soon, as promised by the department. The expansion of Isibindi, the Courage, is allocated 12,933,000. While we welcome the 8% increase for for ECD and partial care, it is important to stress that this allocation is not enough. Western Cape is home to 610 children under the age of 4 years. Of this number, only 73,053 are in funded ECD centers, while the remainder is unaccounted for by this department. Others are found loitering the streets with visible signs of malnutrition and neglect. This budget today will further lead to further neglect of these children. Those who are in the ECD centers will enjoy 364.7 million budget allocated to this program. At this moment, I want to welcome the 40 million ECD grant from the national government. It will be a welcome addition. I also want to welcome the announcement by the President of a 2-year of compulsory ECDs for all children before they enter grade 1. The seriousness of this department about youth development can be seen on the mere grade 24 million allocation for a sub-program 5.6. It is seen as if NGOs in the Metro South have monopolized the funding of this department at the expense of capacitating NGOs in the Metro East and other rural communities. One example is that the same NGO that are founded for implementing youth cafes are also funded other programs like ministerial awards.
Order.
Instead of funding the same organization, the department must consider partnering with civil society structures responsible for youth development and emancipation, including, for example, the Kailicha Youth Development Council. We have been calling for this department to look at the model of youth cafe, as we believe it's unsustainable and more consultation with youth is required. Even the minister considered to this, but we have not seen action.
Order,
for instance,
please.
the Vangate Youth Cafe has poor attendance because its allocation is not accessible to the people, to the young people. Same as the Rockland Youth Cafes that had to be moved to Mitchell's Plain. In George, the department had to strike a deal with Go George to transport youth across the region. This clearly shows that the department has to actively involve youth in planning of these youth cafes. Have you ever heard of nothing for us without us? This will help them to understand how youth thinks, where they are at, and what they want. I wish that at the same stage, the Western Cape will be able to reach the level of Gauteng province, where 500,000 young people have benefited from bursaries, learnership, internships, and entrepreneurial training through the TSEPO 1 million program. Now, this is the real meaning of youth development. On women development, sub-program 5.7 of this department is called Women Development, and there is no funding for it. I am really dismayed that this department has a zero budget for women. I call upon all women in this province to stand up to challenge the status quo. It is time for business unusual. A concerted effort is needed from the government and community at large to be serious about empowering women. Women have fallen victims of abuse, sometimes at the hands of their partners and other times at the hands of complete strangers who rape and murder them. Lest we forget that we are a leading province when it comes to women matters. The only funding in this budget is 51 million for victim empowerment program. This means that in the province, you first have to fall victims before the department can take the plight of women serious. As I conclude my last speech, honorable members, during my participation in this 5th parliament, I've enjoyed my time representing the people of this province, in particular Khayelitsha, Kraaifontein, and Hout Bay. I have grown so much as a person, and I have learned a lot from the African National Congress leadership. I made friends across the political parties. In fact, my best friend is sitting on that side, member Michelle. We have worked well with my colleagues in the committee, thanks, Chair, to keep this department accountable. Thank you to the members of the committee, the minister and the department for sharing information which made it easy for us to do oversight. I also want to thank my family, my sisters, Ayanda, Rosa, and Fezi, as well as my son, Yonda. They have been my best support system. As for the African National Congress, thank you very much for this opportunity. To the people of Western Cape, let's join President Ramaphosa in his call for growing South Africa together. I thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Makaleni. Sorry, I see Member Ace on his feet.
Honourable Speaker, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt the Honourable Member, but she was the only member, as from yesterday till today, where there was no focus of the camera on her. It was just a broad one here, and I think it's just unfair because her constituency was watching today as well, and then we just see the broad shot of the whole of the chamber. And I think there's something wrong, or it's deliberate. I don't know what's the reason.
Honourable Magaka, that comment is Honourable Magaka, that comment is completely out of order, Honourable Magaka. I am responsible for the administration of this institution. So I accept responsibility, but you need to withdraw, yes, you need to withdraw the comment you have made to Honourable Wiley now, please. No. You said Wiley, Honourable Magaka. Please stand up and apologize. Thank you. And I will follow up with the administration as to the comment that was raised by the Honourable Ace. Thank you. Let us proceed. I now see the Minister. Minister Fritz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Sorry, Minister Fritz.
To apologise, Speaker, for interrupting the Minister. I just want to once again bring the House's attention and our objection to the fact that the ACDP and the EFF are missing from these important budget debates, where debating the welfare of this province is now being missed.
Thank you, Chief Whip. Thank you. You may proceed, Minister Fritz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to also just start off when I speak to Honourable Member Botha as chairperson to just sincerely thank her as the chairperson of the committee, Standing Committee for Social Development, and Member Mitchell, Member Wenger, Member Makaleni, every single one, Member Gillian in absence is also never here, in her absence. Really say thank you for the robust way we have interacted. No sweetheart questions. We had very serious debates because the people's lives are at stake here. So thank you very much. I also want to give you the assurance that we're already busy with the Delvina Europa case in ELM, giving the support to the family, and again calling on the community to really take ownership of the safety of our children. And it's again that same area. It's almost like a fluke what I plikkers. So really thank you very much, Honourable Botha. I want to make this one important point, and I really want to link it to what Honourable Makaleni also said, that poverty must never be allowed to take the human dignity. It must never be allowed to take the human dignity away from our people. And it is in that regard why we have responded to Honourable I see Simmers and the Kanaland drought and the area where there was an urgent intervention needed. And I want to say we immediately signed off a relief package, not politically motivated stuff where SASSA pops up when it's election time, but to people who are really poor and who need relief, who are hungry, people who are hungry. And so I want to make that point. I really want to make that point. So I also want to conquer...
Sorry, Minister Fritz, I see the two best friends are debating whilst you are talking. Yes. If I could caution them both, please. Thank you.
I also want to thank, and concur with Member Botha, to really thank every social worker in this province, to thank every social work supervisor in this province, every social work manager, because it's under their guidance and their management that we get cases resolved. We had one case where a social worker was charged recently in a court criminally for negligence. So it is very important to also look at both that we will not stop if there is negligence. If you don't report and a child was murdered in a particular case, that we act. But I want to sincerely say, and to community development practitioners who work in our province, who go out and to make sure that people are safe, specifically during disasters and those kind of issues. I also want to remind the House, and I didn't mention because I always think it's so, NGOs are so part of our lives. They are partners. 52% of this budget, 1.1 billion goes to NGOs. And we have 2,200 NGOs that we fund. And they are doing amazing work. But we will hold them accountable. You can't give them, like your empowerment program you're talking, the ANC's idea of empowerment programs, Member Makaleni, in the previous government, was when they gave 3 million for a snail project. Up to today, we don't know where's the 3 million, we don't know where's the snails, nothing was found. You go to Nelsport, where Member Dagmore likes to go to his cronies there. We gave them a whole farm and abattoir. Daar was een bees geslaggie. No, one cow or cattle was piece. Yes, in Nelsport. You know about Nelsport. And so that definition of empowerment is a farce. We don't give to the elite, to our friends. We give overall empowerment. Overall empowerment, friends. So unlike your kind of projects. The other point, I just want to make, thank you for talking about our Dignity Project. The Dignity Project has become very important, although there was a lot of it. I want to say thank you to Minister Meyer for the allocation that he gave. And again, not social development alone, not social development, education, Department of Sports and Culture, Department of Health, all of us work together in getting that project off the ground. And we have amazing officials who has research and the proper distribution of it so that children don't stay at home because they don't have sanitary towels. So I really want to say thank you for the support in that regard and thank you for all of that. And now to come to Honorable Makaleni, I really wanted to say, I want to really make this point and I sincerely mean it. I really enjoyed working with you. We really enjoyed, you really, you know, a lot of stuff I can see like now today, you just had to say it because poor Cameron Dugmore them told you, you know, you have to say stuff, but you don't mean a word that you say. Because you're also you're one of the few people who's always in the committee, in the standing committee. And a number of the questions that you've asked here, we've dealt with extensively in the committee. We pointed out the difference between irregular and the reason for that irregular, and the other issue of the irregular expenditure and an illegal expenditure, you know, where we pointed that wasteful, where it becomes wasteful. So I just want to make that point. And we've put our mechanisms in place to not let it happen. So I think that's the first point. The other thing, we will always take a good model, whether it comes from whoever. If the ANC has a good model somewhere, we will take it. Or we don't have a principled problem about this because it comes from there. The Eye on the Child is a child welfare program. We've taken it, we didn't claim it's our program, we took it from them. We never said it's our program. Yeah, whatever. Well, if the child welfare now become your ANC. But the point I want to make, we will continue with that. and we will take the, yes, so we never said it was innovative. We said we will go on with it, and we will use that. The other point, the other program, Honorable, I'm coming to you now. The honorable program, the Isibindi program. We must also really keep all our programs accountable. Don't say stuff is, and I see member Lekker is out, but don't say Isibindi is good when it suits us in the house, because many times it's not. Remember, I had to go to unannounced visits and I found nothing there, and because they're all connected to national, you know, ANC bodies there in national. So I'm just making the point, let us always also be fair to every program. So it's going very well now. Isibindi is going very well. We must continue with that. Member Makaleni, I'm very afraid of boards like Kailicha Child Youth Board. And they become the gatekeepers. If you don't work with them, yes. If you don't work with them, they say, oh, you can't work here because they're not. We work with all our youth, every young person. And they don't need a board. They can just be themselves. They can come to us straight. They don't need to work through a board or through anyone. They're just gatekeepers. Yeah. Let me just, not organize gatekeeping communities. Let me just also talk about the Vanguard Youth. That's law, you know, it's long time closed. It didn't work. We don't like the ANC keep on with something that doesn't work. That one youth place was not. So we put it away. We've gone somewhere else. We have now 11. We're going to do 3 more this year. It is a very, very good program. So we're going to continue with that, our good program. And then I just want to also say, within this whole ANC debate and the point you were making, and the honourable, my friend, yes, but in the context of social development, Honourable Davids, you know, the Paul Brands actually nominated member Lekker to Parliament. Not you, they didn't elect you. So it's an important point. We talk a lot here. The second point is the ANC is so ashamed of their white member, Dagmore, that they can't make him the premier candidate because he's white. So he can't be on the posters. They hang Ramaphosa on the posters. Unlike us, we have Alan Winde. We're not ashamed of Alan Winde, whether it's white or black or pink or purple or blue or whatever or gay. He hangs on our poster. He hangs on our poster. Yes, but you, it's white. You can't hang it. No, we have processes.
Order.
We have processes. Here is process.
Order.
Finally.
Order.
Finally.
Honourable Davids.
We're not like that. We don't appoint people, by the way. Let me just finally say, Mr. Deputy Speaker, thank you. It was a great privilege to deliver my speech. I thank you. But they're useless.
Order. Order. Honourable Magaka. Honourable Davids, please allow the Chair to speak. That concludes the debate on this vote. We will now suspend business for about 4 or 5 minutes to allow the galleries to be vacated and taken over by new staff and new guests. The House is suspended.